evening. I'm Father Alexander. Welcome to step 243 in our walking tour through the Bible. And we're still on Isaiah chapter 40, and we're at verse 12, if you can find that in your book. Have you asked yourself what God is like? Have you, in church, been told what God is like? Has the preacher opened up to you a vision of God and what God is like? Now, unfortunately, it seems to me, though it is the job of the church, the job of the preacher to talk about God and just about God, all sorts of other things creep in. I don't mean that the priest talks about the water coming in through the ceiling and please make sure you shut the door and things like that, although he invariably does. What I mean is that in the preaching of the church, we think perhaps the concept of God is too hard for people, or it's too abstruse, or it's too transcendental. And so we talk about other things, and the whole discourse of God tends to sort of be concertinaed into a discourse of let's all be good people, let's all be nice to each other, and so on. Perhaps I'm caricaturing slightly. But every time we talk about something that's not God, we use up space for talking about God. And we need to talk about God much more than we do, because don't forget, outside the church, God is not spoken about very much, or if he is spoken about, he's spoken about in a way that is a caricature of God. So, what is God like? Can you actually sit there and write in one sentence, what is God like? Well, the prophet Isaiah puts this question to us, and he says in verse 25, to whom can you compare me? Or who is my equal? Says the Holy One. So God is the incomparable and God is the unequaled. Now that's a problem, because if God cannot be compared to anything and God cannot be equal to anything, where is the language in which we are going to talk about God if we cannot say God is like X or God is similar to Y? Now you see the problem. One of the things we've done is that in talking about God, we've likened him to various things, we've compared him to various things, and as a result, we've ended up not talking about what God really is. We've talked about a simulacrum of God, an image of God, and images are limited, images are seeable. God is not to be seen, God is beyond sight, God is beyond all limits. And so it's very hard for human beings to alert other human beings to the true nature of God. Now, what Isaiah is doing in these verses is he's talking about the transcendental nature of God. That is to say, God goes beyond anything that is here on earth. Clearly, God is not here on earth. If he was here on earth, bear with me a moment, if he was here on earth as a thing, he would not be God. He is not a thing in the universe, rather, he is the condition of possibility of all things. And here is God speaking. Who was it measured the water of the sea in the hollow of his hand, and calculated the heavens to the nearest inch, gauged the dust of the earth to the nearest bushel, weighed the mountains in scales and hills in a balance? Who directed the Spirit of the Lord? What counselor could have instructed him? Whom has he consulted to enlighten him, to instruct him in the path of judgment, to teach him knowledge, and to show him how to understand? So God is the supreme knowledge. There's nobody who tells him what to do or what to think. God is the one who is much greater than the world. He has measured the water of the sea, which is pretty infinite, in the hollow of his hand. Well, he doesn't have hands, does he? But the image is there to alert us to the fact that God, the measure of the universe, is greater than the universe. He transcends the universe. See, the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They count as grains of dust in the scales. See, coasts and islands weigh no more than fine powder. The Lebanon is not enough for the burning fires, nor its animals enough for the burnt offering. All the nations are as nothing before him. For him they count as nothingness and emptiness. To whom can you compare God? What image can you contrive of him? Well, you can't compare God to anything. You cannot make an image of God. Then he contrasts this with the idols of the nations. And here we have it. The craftsman casts an idol. A goldsmith overlays it with gold and casts silver chains for it. So he makes an idol out of base metal, and then it's covered in gold and then bound around with silver chains. Someone too poor to afford a sacrifice chooses a piece of wood that will not rot. He then seeks out a skilled craftsman to set up an idol that will not totter. So, idols, unlike God, have a starting place. They begin with human beings who say, let's make a statue and then let's worship it or let's revere it or something like that. Then, the other thing is the idol is in space. It is measurable. It's 6 inches long or 3 inches broad or something like that. The idol clearly is not all powerful. It's because it is a man who made the idol. The maker is surely greater than the idol. The maker is more inventive than the idol itself. The idol is inanimate. Now, of course, you could say, oh, well, the idol is just a reminder. The person who is bowing down before the idol is worshipping a god in heaven or somewhere like that, or on Mount Olympus, who the idol represents, the idol calls to mind. But the fact that a graven image can be made of this God proves, it seems to me and to the prophet Isaiah, that God is the God who is thus put into the idol cannot of his nature be God, insofar as he can be contained or an image can be made of him. Now, we try and make images of God, and those images fail, because the moment we make an image of God, what we've captured in our imagination is not God. Indeed, God is the one of whom an image cannot be made, the unimaginable. He goes beyond anything. So this is why, of course, the children of Israel were so against image making, because it was futile and it was an insult to God, in the sense that the person who worshipped the image was not even worshipping God. The only person who can make the image of God is God himself. And he has given us the image of himself in his Son, Jesus Christ, who sums up the fullness of God. But that is different. Insofar as God has made an image of himself, we can make images of each other using our God-given creative powers, and those images give us a picture of what people are like. You say, oh, this photograph captures him very well. Or that portraitist really did get his character, didn't they, when they painted the picture of etc. We can do that, but we certainly can't do that with God. And as you know, some really great artists have tried to picture heaven, God, the things of the spirit, and they've failed. And some really bad artists have done the same. And my goodness, they failed. But that didn't stop them. And they keep on at it. Go into any card shop and look at all the pictures of fluffy clouds and angels, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Now, God says to the idol makers, verse 21, did you not know? Have you not heard? Was it not told you from the beginning? Have you not understood how the earth was set on its foundations? He who sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, the inhabitants of which are like grasshoppers, stretches out the heavens like a cloth, spreads them out like a tent to live in. He reduces princes to nothing, rulers of the earth to mere emptiness. Scarcely are they planted, scarcely sown, scarcely has their stem taken root in the soil, then he blows on them and they wither, and the storm carries them away like chaff. So God points out to us his almighty power, greater than any power on earth, certainly greater than the power of those who are making idols. To whom can you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look. He who created these things, that means the stars, etc., leads out their army in order, summoning each one of them by name. So mighty is his power, so great is his strength, that not one fails to answer. How can you say, Jacob? How can you repeat, Israel? My way is hidden from your Lord. My rights are ignored by my God. Did you not know me? Had you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God. He created the remotest parts of the earth. He does not grow tired or weary. His understanding is beyond fathoming. He gives strength to the weary. He strengthens the powerless. Now, God the Almighty shares his power with us. He strengthens the weary and the powerless. Youths grow tired and weary. The young stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will regain their strength. They will sprout wings like eagles. They will run and they will not grow weary. Though they walk, they will never tire. So what is this telling us? Well, let's go back to the beginning of chapter 40. And it says, console ye my people. Console them, saith your God. And it then says, all flesh is grass. You've been seeking consolation in the wrong places. Console yourself with the thought of the transcendence of God. Console yourself with the thought that God, who is mighty, almighty, who goes beyond anything you could imagine, is the one who strengthens you, who gives you the wings like an eagle, so that when you run, you won't grow weary. When you walk, you will never tire. So God, the transcendent, God who is greater than anything that we can picture or imagine, because if we could imagine him, he wouldn't be God. God who goes beyond human thought. Human thought can only can't capture him, but can get an impression that he's there. God, who is so much greater than anything we can think of, is the one who strengthens us. So that is consolation. It's running, not getting tired, walking, never tiring. All the best. Bye.